Hey, Allison Verhalen here, coming at you live for today's Marketing Monday. And today I want to talk to you about trust because we all know the saying, right? People work with the people they know, like, and trust. Great. How do you convey trust? How do you get people to trust you? Especially the more we're online, the more we get clients who never even meet us. You might have a Zoom meeting with them, in which case you at least get to see each other's faces. That helps. Phone calls help too. I have had at least a couple clients I've gotten just over the phone. I've never seen their face. They've never seen my face, but through the content on my website and the conversations that we've had, they have come to trust me to the point where they were willing to hand over their credit card over the phone, and it just made life so much easier. So how can you do that? I will get into how to do that. I do want to talk a little bit about why it's so important. Like I just said, people are more willing to hand over their money if they trust you. Also, think about any time, because we've all had this, right? We hand over money for something, and it doesn't really matter the amount of money that we hand over, right? Obviously, if it's like a huge amount of money and we don't get what we thought we were getting for that amount of money, we get pissed, right? And it's not just because they took our money and didn't deliver. It's because there was trust involved and they broke that trust. And few things are more infuriating than people who break our trust, including companies. Companies are not people, to be clear. But we do work with the people that we know, like, and trust. And if we can't trust that you're going to do what you say you're going to do, super annoying. So let's talk about how to build trust. Empathy is a huge one. This is a big reason why in marketing we always talk about the importance of making sure that you talk about the pain points. Not only the pain point, don't just describe the pain point, right? You can start there, but also talk about how it feels to be in that pain point. This accomplishes two things. First of all, empathy. It shows that you understand what people are going through. That is going to help them trust you. Then it also reminds them how much it sucks to be in this position and they don't want to be in this position. And so you are going to help them out of that position. So it's two birds with one stone there. But when it comes to trust, that's where you build that empathy. And that is super important for earning their trust, taking them to the next step in the buyer journey. So that's a big one, is making sure that this is also why we see a lot of people talk about their success story, right? I was in this position. It was painful. I really didn't like it. I wanted out of it. I found a way out, and now I can help you get out. That's, again, it demonstrates empathy. If you are describing the position that they are currently in, the before part of that journey, again, it demonstrates empathy and provides hope, because if you found a way out and you're going to show them how to get out, awesome. Now there's hope that they can get out of this situation and have a better experience and a better life. Authority. I am going to have a whole other video later on about authority, so stay tuned for that. But I have to mention it here because it is so important. We trust authority figures. There's a fairly famous study done a while back, and I think it's been done a couple times actually, where people observe people jaywalking. How much are people going to jaywalk just on their own without prompting? That was their control. Then they had a volunteer in street clothes who would jaywalk. And they saw how many people jaywalked after the person in street clothes. And then they had a volunteer wearing a suit who jaywalked. People in the street clothes study were more likely to jaywalk than people in the control study. But if the volunteer was wearing a suit, people were significantly more likely to jaywalk because they perceive that person as being an authority figure just because he was wearing a suit. They never even talked to him. All they did was see him doing something illegal. But because he's wearing a suit, it must be okay, right? So that is a big reason of why authority, and if you know about Milton's authority experiment, that takes it to a whole other level. I won't get into that here. But yes, people pay attention to what you do, to what you say. All of these combine to position you as an authority, and they are so much more likely to trust you if you are an authority figure. So how do you position yourself as an authority figure? Like I said, I will go into this in a lot more depth in another post. But for now, You got your degrees and certificates, anything that says, hey, look, I have this qualification to do what I'm doing. I had a really, I had to have back surgery when I was a teenager. Um, and I was really scared because it was, it was fine. But there was always that chance, and it was a slim chance, but it was a chance that things could go really, really wrong. So I was really upset. And one of my friends was like, they know what they're doing. That's why they have all those fancy certificates on the wall, right? There's a reason when you walk into a law firm, into a doctor's office, you're going to see all of their credentials framed, put up on the wall, prominently displayed for you to see, so you can be assured that this person knows what they're doing because they have these credentials. There's a reason for that. So any credentials that you have, whether it's a degree, whether it can even be an online certification. It doesn't have to be a law degree or a doctorate, right? It could just be, hey, I completed this course online. Cool, put that up there. Authorship. If you wrote and published a book, what is more authoritative than saying, I literally wrote the book on the subject? So if you have a book, say it. Just distribute it to the world. Let everyone know that you have a book. Blog posts, few things are more, do more to establish your authority than having a ton of information you provided on your industry. As seen on section, if you were featured on another prominent website, on news segments, on podcasts, talk that up, because now you are getting in front of another audience, but saying, hey, this person trusted me enough to bring me onto their platform with them. Those do a lot for authority. So absolutely talk those up. Backlinks. If other people are using you as a reference, you must know what you're talking about. And I've talked a lot about backlinks in the past, so I won't get into it here, but you can check out past videos for that. You can check out my blog. You can check out my book, right? There's a lot of information on there about backlinks, but the reason that Google focuses on backlinks as an indicator of authority is because that's how humans work, right? We tend to figure, well, if someone else in this industry is using you as an authority, you must be an authority, and therefore you are trustworthy. Next up, tribalism. We are tribal creatures. We don't always like to admit it because we know on a logical level that we are living in a global world, right? We work especially with Zoom, right? I was just networking. I'm in Chicago. I was just networking with someone in Florida, right? Because that's the world we live in now. It was not always, but our brains haven't really caught up to that. They still think very tribally. It's just that the way that a identified tribe has shifted a little bit, right? So you know when you're in a networking event, when you're at a party, if you're out somewhere and you meet someone and you're like, oh, that's my person, like that, we need to be friends because of such and such. I was at a networking event once and I saw someone wearing a Star Wars t-shirt and I was like, that's it. We have to be friends. And as soon as I called her out for wearing a Star Wars t-shirt, she knew that we needed to be friends because it wasn't emblazoned with Star Wars. It didn't have a prominent character on it. I actually can't remember what was on the t-shirt, but it was something a little more subtle, where if you're not familiar with the Star Wars world, it might not automatically come to you as being Star Wars. I think it was the Rebel Alliance logo, I think is what was on her shirt. Something like that. So yeah, if you don't watch as much Star Wars as I do, it might not come to you, but because we're in the same tribe of Star Wars nerdship, we recognized each other, right? So that's a good lead in into the first way that you can indicate to someone that you are part of their tribe. Wear the clothes they wear, what you do with your hair, use the language they use. I talk about this all the time, and I can't stop talking about it because it is so important to use the language that they use. A, makes it more likely that you're going to be understood. B, don't talk over their heads. Don't use big words. Don't use acronyms or jargon that they don't understand. But on the other hand, what that does is signal to them that you are part of their tribe. If you have ever talked to someone who lives just a few counties over from where you live, and they're using words you don't use, and it's just a few words here and there, but it's enough to make you go, huh? Or even a different accent, that's a whole other thing, right? That signals that they're not our tribe. They are not our people. And that immediately in our little primal brains makes us go, oh, I can't trust you. Because if someone is part of another tribe, they are a threat. They could potentially steal resources from us, making it harder for us to survive. I know that's not actually how it works anymore, not usually, but in our brains, that's what our brains are thinking. They're not our tribe, they're a threat. So how you carry yourself, how you dress, the language you use, all reassure people that you are part of their tribe, which means you have to know your target audience. You have to know whether they like Star Wars, whether they're a dog person or a cat person, right? So that goes into my next part. So when you're marketing content, not necessarily on your website, it can be on your website. If you're a solopreneur, if you are your brand, you can absolutely on your website put these things. Otherwise, on social media, you can put your hobbies and interests, the movies and TV shows you like, the music you like, the podcasts you listen to, the books you're reading, whether you're a dog person or a cat person or a snake person or a fish person, whatever it might be, right? Whether you like to travel, and if so, where, if you speak more than one language, and if so, what languages, all those things can be, obviously, you don't want to talk it up too much. You don't want to be completely personal, but by showing those things, that indicates to people, oh, you're part of my tribe. I can trust you. Don't make promises you can't keep. I think this feels obvious, but we see this all the time in marketing where people promise the moon. And this is why people don't trust marketing. I saw something online recently. So we all see those diet ads, right, with the before and after. And I saw an amazing video once. It was a super short video. It was only a minute or two long, where someone showed how they take the after picture first. And then by eating and drinking certain things, in the course of a few hours, they can take the before picture. They can look much more bloated and much more out of shape than they did just a few hours ago. It was amazing. So that's why we don't trust those anymore, right? So this comes back to, if you're going to make a promise, make sure you can keep that promise. There's a reason I don't, as an SEO person, I don't promise the moon. I don't promise you certain rankings. I don't promise anything that I can't keep, that I can't deliver on, because I don't want to be that person, and it's not going to be great for my business. But as a general rule, if you can keep a promise, if you can actually deliver the moon, and you're 100% certain about that, by all means, go ahead and promise the moon. But you have to make sure that you're not promising the moon just because it sounds cool. Make sure that in your content, you are saying, look, this is what I can do for you. This is what it's going to look like. This is how we're going to get there. Good general rule is to underpromise and overdeliver, because whatever you promise, doesn't matter what you promise. If you promise the moon, that's the baseline. If you promise a rock, that's the baseline. And our brain, doesn't matter what the baseline is, our brain kind of sets at that point. So if you promise us a rock and give us the moon, oh, that's awesome. If you promise us a rock and give us a rock, great. If you promise the moon and give us a rock, wait, I was promised the moon. How come all I got was, now you're Charlie Brown on Halloween, right? Oh, I got a rock. You can be just as happy with what you got if that's what you were promised. But if you were promised more, getting the same thing suddenly feels a lot worse, because you set the wrong expectations. So set the right expectations. Consistency. Publish consistently, create content consistently, do what you say you're going to do. Oh, your voice, your brand voice, the words you use, the words you don't use, all of that has to be consistent throughout your content, because we like things that are predictable. If you are doing things consistently, we know what to expect from you. That makes us feel safe. Therefore, we trust you. If you're, I just had this conversation because I ran into one of my uncles not too long ago, and I love my uncle, I do. But he's one of those people where you never really know which version of him you're going to get. So despite how much I love him, and despite all of our years together, I still approach him with oh, okay, which uncle am I getting here? Well, I'm not quite sure. And it's not that I don't feel safe around him, but I don't feel as comfortable around him as I do around my other uncles, where I always get the same thing. Um, Same thing works in your content, right? Provide the same thing over and over. People will know what to expect from you. They will feel safe with you. They will trust you. They will buy from you. Color, last but not least, branding and color all work together. And again, I'll go into this more depth in another blog post, but certain colors are associated with trust more than others. So absolutely keep that in mind. And I know it's weird because we don't recognize it on a conscious level. We don't recognize that because this logo is blue, we trust it more. And yet, think about all of the banking apps, all of the banking brands that have blue in them. Because if they're working with your money, they want you to trust them. So blue is associated with, by the way, 1/3 of the world's top 100 brands. There's a reason for that. All of the social media brands, LinkedIn, Twitter, which is going through a rebrand, so Facebook, all of them have blue in them because they want you to feel safe with them. Whether or not you actually are safe with them is a whole other conversation that I'm not going to get into, but there's a reason they include blue. Black and white logos tend to demonstrate clarity and professionalism while also projecting strength and power. Strength and power, not the same thing as trustworthiness, but depending on your audience, they will be more likely. Some certain people are more likely to trust a brand, a person that projects strength and power. So keep that in mind. Pink, again, largely associated with women, but it's also the softer pinks are more associated with gentleness and reassurance, whereas the brighter shades are associated with excitement and daring. So not so much trust, but if you want people to feel reassured, and therefore like they can trust you, consider maybe a pastel pink. So that is it. That is everything that I have for you today. I have to get going, but if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to me at, you can get more info like this on my website, AV as in my initials, Allison Verhalen. That is all at avwritingservices.com. You can reach me directly by shooting me an email at info@avwritingservices.com, or you can leave a comment here. That's it. Have a great week and happy blogging, everyone.